A typical business situation: you need to send an email to all your clients, a newsletter, a company closure notice, or strictly confidential documentation, where both the email text and especially the attachment must be different for each client. Personally, I've found myself in this situation several times. In this video, I'll show you how it's solved in a simple, fast, and cost-effective way. Watch the video until the end to explain some fundamental things to ensure your emails reach your recipients. Before we see how the program works, it's important to say that no one should send mass emails using a company email account, and this is for several reasons. The first reason is most email providers limit more than a number of recipients for a single email. The second reason is that it doesn't make sense to send many emails with large attachments. In your account, which has a monthly cost, having emails that make no sense to stay in your inbox is an issue. The third reason is that all those emails could bounce back for some reason, clogging up your inbox. Finally, the fourth and most important reason, especially for internal company emails, is that sending mass emails could get your IP address blacklisted, meaning it could end up on a list of potential servers sending emails worldwide, effectively blocking your server and preventing you from sending future emails. The solution I'm about to show you uses an Excel macro that doesn't send emails directly but delegates the actual emails sending to an external server or service, thus preventing you from running into all the problems I just listed. Let's see how the macro works. There is this Excel sheet with a cell to enter the email subject, a cell to enter the body, or the text of the email, within the placeholders %name %, and %surname %. These placeholders will be replaced with the actual first and last names of the client before sending. The list of clients starts from row 6 and includes their information, the first and last names that will replace the placeholders, the email, and possibly the name of an attachment. At this point, I've entered 2 recipients and created 2 dummy PDF attachments, naming them with this code that could be the client's code just to distinguish them. Inside, it simply says client 0001 and client 0002, just to show they are different. Let's try sending it. It asks if I'm sure, and I say yes. Okay, it did something. Let's check if the email actually arrived. Here it is. This was for client 02, Paolo Bianchi, with the PDF for client 02. Let's see Paolo Bianchi. Perfect. Let's just open the other account, and here it is, and here it is. Attachment 001. So the email has arrived. Perfect. Let's take a detailed look at how the macro works from the Excel sheet. Press Alt F11 and let's start reading the instructions. Remember to install Blat from blat.net. Okay, now let's go to Google, search for Blat, blat.net, and see that Blat is a command line utility for Windows that allows you to send emails using the SMTP protocol. Go to download it. I've already done that. Inside, you'll find the docs folder that contains the documentation, and then the full folder. From the full folder, we take blat.exe and copy it into the Windows folder, see Windows, System 32. Okay, blat.exe. Here it is. At this point, let's continue reading the instructions. Install Blat with the command blat install. Okay, I've copied it here. This is the command you absolutely need to run, of course customizing it with the data you need. In this case, I'll take my pleasant string, open a command prompt. Make sure to run it as administrator, okay? Let's carefully copy this line. And to verify that it has been installed, type blub space -profile, okay? And let's see if something significant happened. Test Blat with the command blat subject, etc., etc. Let's copy this line and send a test email. So the subject of the email is email subject. As you can see, you see that the subject is indeed enclosed in double quotes. Then there's clearly the body parameter. And here too we have double quotes enclosing the text I want to send. Next, specifically, we have the to parameter, where we write the recipient of the email, for example. Let's see if it works. Okay, something happened, so let's check our email client to see if the email arrives. Here it is, we have an email with the subject and body, so the first test was successful. Of course, in my server parameters, I used an external service that I will talk about at the end of this video, okay. But let's continue with the explanation of the macro. Let's see how it works. There's a subroutine to send an email that does a few things. First of all, we have a parameter that you can set to true or false depending on whether you want to send the email in HTML format or plain text. So, HTML equals true will send the email in HTML format. This is very crucial and significant if you want to include HTML tags in the body of the email, like images or links, but it will also be important for tracking opens, indeed, meaning checking if your email was opened and when, which we'll discuss in more detail later. Initially, it asks the user if they are certain they truly wish to perform this operation. By default, the default button is the second one, which is no, so if you accidentally hit enter, it will stop. If you press yes, it reads the subject of the email from row 2, column 3, and replaces the double quote character, which is identified by ASCII code 34. So CHR34 means double quote, and it replaces it with a backslash double quote. This is because, as you've seen and may have guessed, the program will execute this DLUT command, and the parameters for the subject and body of the email must be enclosed in double quotes. So if there's a double quote character within the subject or body of the email, it breaks the command and it won't work anymore, so you need to keep the double quote. Then it starts at line 6. And then it starts processing, setting up the sent email counter to 0, retrieving the first email address from line 6, setting up the error flag to false, and then it begins a loop from here to here. In the program, which is basically the whole program, analyzing all the relevant lines, so as long as it doesn't find a blank email address, or there's no error flag, it continues to bypass unnecessary lines, moving forward and sending the email line by line. First, it extracts the body from cell C4, which is the one with the placeholders inside for personalization. So, every time it reads a line, it resets this body and then substitutes the name marker, any percentage name with the client's name. It does the same for the last name, and then substitutes all double quote characters in the body with / double quotes for proper formatting. If you chose to send the email in HTML format, it will replace this character code 10, which signifies a line break, with the HTML tag BR. This is because when you're in an Excel cell and you want to insert a new line, you do this by pressing Alt while hitting Enter. In reality, you're writing that character code 10. Obviously, this functions correctly, and you can see it if you send a plain text email. But if you want to send it in HTML format, every single line break must be replaced with the corresponding HTML tag, and that's why this line. Excuse me, this line does exactly that, replacing line breaks with BR in HTML format. Then it constructs the first BLAT command, so blat.exe. There's no need to specify that it's in the C folder in Windows 6.32 because, by default, it's in the path, followed by subject, and then it indicates the subject that you indicated in the cell here at row 2, column 3 specifically, always enclosed in double quotes, as you can see in this particular case. Then it adds the parameter body in the body, which is what you calculated earlier, also enclosed in double quotes. Finally, it specifies the parameter, which is the recipient's email. Then it checks that if you wanted to send an HTML format, it must also add the parameter HTML. Then it composes the file name by taking the two parts of the attachment you specified, if you did specify it. It checks if this string is greater than 0, meaning if you actually indicated an attachment. In this case, it checks if it exists, because maybe you specified it, but it doesn't exist in the folder. It checks where this file is because it fetches attachments from the folder where the Excel file is located. It calls a function called fileExist, which I created below. That simply checks if the file exists or not. So if you specified the attachment and the file exists, it adds to the command that will be executed, which is the one with BLAT, the parameter touch and the file name, always enclosed in double quotes. Finally, it launches the complete command that will send it via the shell command. It sends it minimized, so you won't see the window that opens, but it runs it, adds to the counter of sent emails, and then displays the message attachment OK on the selected line, meaning it found the attachment. If the file doesn't exist, it throws an error, thus stopping the execution of the loop and writing warning, attachment not found. If you didn't want to send the attachment because you didn't specify it for that client, it runs the command as is. And that's it. I add to the counter of sent emails and write OK. Then it increments the row by 1, rereads the emails, and if you want, you can uncomment this line to add a pause of 100 milliseconds or more between sends. After that, the loop concludes here and starts again, scanning all the rows. In the end, if there was an error, the program will notify you that it finished with an error from row X, and will still give you a report of how many emails were sent. Otherwise, if there were no errors, the program will say it finished successfully with the last row processed. That's it. The program is all here, and it sends all the emails, until it finds no more space starting from row 6. So if you fill out something like this, it will still stop here. The list needs to be continuous. Let's just perhaps do an example of sending an HTML email. Since it's Easter, let's go look for an Easter greeting image online. Let's embark on a quick task. We'll start by opening this image in a new tab, which is a straightforward process. After that, we'll carefully copy this link, ensuring its accuracy, and proceed to write the message. Happy Easter from all of us here at the company. Following this, we'll create an IMG SRC tag, making sure to use double quotes as required, which is a simple yet crucial step. Now we'll insert the image into the HTML format, an essential part of our email preparation. Once everything is set, we'll send the email, ensuring all elements are in place. This is the same image we used previously, so it should be familiar. Let's check the outcome in Gmail. Here it is, and as you can see, our image has successfully arrived with our email. It includes the image itself, the necessary attachment, and the unsubscribe link tag. You have the flexibility to write anything you like. For instance, you can make the text bold to emphasize certain points. Let's proceed to try sending it now. I always recommend conducting some tests before sending emails in bulk. This ensures that everything functions correctly and as expected. There you have it. Always remember to test before sending. This way, you can be confident that everything works perfectly. The service I use for bulk email sending is called SMTP2Go. They don't pay me to mention this. It's not a sponsorship. I recommend it simply because it's affordable. It has a free tier, but the paid part is also very reasonable. Let me explain how it works. First, let's look at the pricing for this service. So you have a free plan that allows you to send up to 1,000 emails per month. With a limit, here it is, 1,000 emails per month, with a daily limit of 200 emails. This doesn't mean that if you send 300, 400, or 500 emails, you'll be blocked and they won't work. Any emails that exceed the daily limit of 200 will still be held by the system and sent within the next 24 hours, up to another limit of 200 emails. After that, you'll have to wait another 24 hours, and so on until all the emails are sent. This is the free plan. If you want to lift this limit, you can start with a starter plan for $10 a month, which allows you to send up to 10,000. You can send approximately 40,000 emails a month with just €5 more, so that's really quite a lot. But let's see how this tool works. Here, I'm already logged in with my account. I have a dashboard where I can see day by day how many emails I've sent, how many of those have been opened, how many have been marked as spam, or bounced back for some reason. I have my monthly quota, so it's telling me here that I've sent 487 out of 1,000 for the month. Then, I have the option to go to Activity and see everything that has happened, so I can filter for the last 7 days or just today. Let's take today as an example. I can filter by the status of the emails, so only those that were rejected, marked as spam, processed, or opened. I can also search by subject or recipient. Here, I can also see the details of the emails. These are the ones we sent earlier for testing. In this case, I have some in delivery status and some in open status. If I check, it tells me that this email was opened for less than 5 seconds. It also shows me the name of the machine that sent it, the IP address, and then I have various details, including the size. If I look at the headers, it even shows me that the Smail, which is the program that sent the email, is Blat, the version of Blat on a 64-bit machine. In short, a whole bunch of amazing information. All these reports can also be easily exported using the button here on the right, both as CSV and XML, as well as in various different formats. These can then be analyzed to clean up your email list and understand which addresses are working and which ones are inactive, and so on and so forth. To use this tool, it's important to follow a few steps. First, you need to go to Sending, then to SMTP, Users, and create an SMTP user. If you remember, when I ran the command, I specified the server, and now we see it here, SMTP, which is mail.smtp2go.com. After that, I had to specify the user with the parameter you. And this is the user we will create, with their own login and password. So, in the SMTP user section, you need to click on Add SMTP user. Specify a username, like test user, and a password that it will pre-fill for you. OK. And then you have the option to do some interesting things. First of all, what is the unsubscribed footer? By default, it's disabled, but if you send newsletters, it would be mandatory to include it. Basically, a link that is automatically placed at the bottom of the email in both HTML format, which you can also customize, and in plain text. This allows the recipient of your email to click on it and unsubscribe from your mailing list. What does this impact? It means that if the next day you send them an email with this solution I just showed you, even if their address was included in the recipient's, that email won't arrive because the system will filter out everyone who has unsubscribed. So it's a double-edged sword. I might advise against adding it for communications with your clients that need to get through, but for newsletters, it could be a good idea to activate it. After that, you have a tracking and status option, which is essential if you want to track opens. Okay, opens mean that when the email is delivered, you see it as processed. But if you want to know when they opened it, and if they opened it, activate this option here. Of course, for it to work, you need to have set the HTML format. Otherwise, it won't work. However, if you read what it says in the guide, it tells you that this system doesn't actually work 100%. Because, for example, it says that open tracking is not available. Obviously, as I clearly mentioned regarding plain text, there are other situations where it doesn't work. For example, if the email client blocks loading images, this is because tracking is done with a pixel image that gets loaded. Even if you open Gmail, for example, using a web browser or the mobile app, this will not be visible. And the same goes for Apple Mail, but I have to say that from the tests I've done, company emails, like Autolooker, work 100%. So it's a really interesting tool if you want to do tracking. You can also track other links within the email. Okay, there's a guide that explains how to do it, but I won't go into detail now. You could also do this. After that, there are other options that I won't show you right now. So the first step is definitely to create this user. Okay, I've already created mine, obviously. I've created 2 here with various options. The second thing you need to do, which is fundamental, is to go to verified senders, meaning you need to specify which domains you will be sending emails from. But above all, they must be verified. Now I'll explain what that means. So the first step is to add a domain for the sender. Let's pretend it's called test.com. Okay, well, just continue. It's not. Just a little bit more like this. Let's pretend. It's a namesake of mine. Here it is. alessandroscala.com. Okay, at this point, it tells you to do one thing. You need to go to your DNS management for your domain and insert these 3 name records. So, you create a record with this key and this value. Okay, key value. This is because the email servers that will receive your email need to verify that SMTP2Go is authorized to send the email on your behalf for your domain. So, it's essential to go into DNS management, which obviously says unknown here because this domain probably doesn't exist. But if I go to mine, for example, it shows that it recognizes it as Aruba. Okay, in this case, once you've inserted these links, you need to wait a few hours for the DNS to propagate, and then there will be a verify button. It will check by reading these records and expects to find these values. Once verified, these checks will appear. This is crucial for ensuring that emails are not only sent but also received by your clients. Please, this is very important. Okay, this was probably the most complicated part of the setup because you need to go into the DNS and insert the records, but it's nothing difficult. Just read the documentation from your providers and do it. Obviously, once it's done, you won't need to do it every time. Just do it once, and once it's set up, you're good to go. Okay. Here there are other options that I won't explain because the tool is really vast and comprehensive. You can do a whole series of filtering. I won't go into that. Anyway, I have to say that I've been using this system for quite some time, both for personal and business use. And I find it really effective. So once you've set up a computer with Excel, BLAT, and SMTP2Go, you can send emails at full speed. Obviously, this solution can also be adapted for use not just with Excel, but for example, with a web server. Using PHP, you can create a web interface that does the same thing using SMTP2Go. Finally, it should be noted there are other ways to use the SMTP2Go service, besides the example I showed with the Excel file. Think, for example, of a corporate UPS that needs to send an email because it has detected a power outage. In this case, instead of connecting it to Office 365, which is known to occasionally freeze and require browser authentication, you can connect it directly to the SMTP2Go service using the SMTP protocol. Or think of an application of yours that needs to send emails when a certain event occurs. Here too, you can bypass Office 365 and use the SMTP2Go service. Finally, it is possible to use this service within WordPress sites. There is a native SMTP2Go plugin for WordPress that needs to be configured. First, you need to create an authorization key within the SMTP2Go control panel, which then has to be inserted into the WordPress plugin. If you're interested in the topic, I can make a specific video for WordPress. Let me know in the comments. Of course, you'll find the downloadable file in the comments of the video. Okay? A shout out to everyone. Bye.